Let's get started with our notes on adding and subtracting rational expressions. Whether adding or subtracting rational expression, you need the same is what I would need if I add and subtract normal fractions. I need a common denominator. Common denominator. And then we can get started. If I look at number 1, I can see that my denominator already is the same, so I only have to focus on my numerator and add my terms together, which x plus 2x would give me 3x, and 4 plus 6 will give me 10, and my denominator stays the same, x squared plus 8x minus 3. In cases like in number 2, when we have, move this over, when we have problems where our denominator is not the same, a good help to us to find what is our common denominator is using our least common multiple. The least common multiple pretty much means check your left, what do I have on the left, okay, and then check what do I have on the right. Do they have anything in common? In this case, they don't, so I need to think about what is missing over here. And this side, we're missing an x minus 7. And what is missing on this side? I'm missing an x plus 5. It's like cross multiplying. So the least common multiple that I can find is x minus 7 times x plus 5. So this becomes my denominator. And then we need to multiply out. In this case, I want to think, okay, if I already have x plus 5, the only thing that I'm now missing on this side is my x minus 7. So we're going to multiply this side by x minus 7, which 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. And then we're going to add, and on this side, I already have the x minus 7, so I'm missing the x plus 5, which I'm now going to multiply out the 2x times x is 2x squared, and the 2x times 5 is 10x. I'm going to combine together, which then gives me, I have a 2x squared, and then I'm going to add up to 13x, and I have a negative 21 over x by the 7 and x plus 5. There you go. Move this over. Technology. Now one move. There we go. Okay. In this case, my denominator is not the same, but I also cannot see right away what the least common multiple would be. So I always want to factor my problem first. So this would turn into, well, we got x plus 2 and x plus 1. And the other piece would factor into x minus 5 and x plus 2. So let's see, what do they both have in common? Both denominators have an x plus 2. So that definitely has to be one of my multiples, an x plus 2. But this one also has an x plus 1. And on this side, we have an x minus 5. This now is going to be our least common multiple, which will be the denominator of our fraction. Multiplying out the left, I already have the x plus 2. I already have the x plus 1. So the only thing missing that I need to multiply out on this side is the x minus 5. And in this case, x minus 5 times x plus 3 will actually turn into x cubed, negative 2x, and negative 15. And then we're adding. And on this side, I already have the x minus 5. I have the x plus 2. So the only thing missing that I need to multiply out is the x plus 1. And x plus x is x squared. And x plus 1 is just x. If I now combine my like terms, I'm going to have a 2x squared minus x minus 15 over x plus 2, x plus 1, and x minus 5. In this case, I personally would advise you to always check, can I factor the numerator? Because it could be that sometimes you create a numerator that you can simplify with the denominator, so you always want to check, can I simplify? Can I factor it? This piece actually does factor into 2x plus 5 and x minus 3. But like we see right here, they don't have anything in common, so there's nothing to simplify. But always go ahead and check. Want to make sure that there isn't anything. There we go. X plus 2 and our x squared plus 5x minus 1. Now we're going to talk a little bit about subtraction. I have a common denominator, so I can go ahead and add my numerator. So I have an x plus 2, and I'm going to subtract an x, and I'm going to subtract a negative 1, which then actually turns into a positive 1. And then my denominator, 5x minus 1. Simplified version, the x actually cancels out, leaves me with a 3 on the top over x squared plus 5x minus 1. Okay, let's check number 5. Factor your denominators first to see what, so you can find your least common multiple. Let's go see. So this x plus 3 will factor into x plus 1 and a x plus 7. And the other piece will factor into also a 2x plus 1 and an x minus 2. So you want to check what's my least common multiple. I'm going to write it up here. They both have the 2x plus 1 in common, so we're definitely going to need this in the denominator. Then I also have an x plus 7, and I have an x minus 2. So those are going to create our common denominator. So I want to have a 2x plus 1, an x plus 7, and an x minus 2, which is your denominator. And let's go see. So for my first piece right here, the x plus 3, in the denominator I already have the 2x plus 1 and the x plus 7. So the only thing that I need to multiply out would be the x minus 2, which is then going to turn into an x squared plus x minus 6. And then I'm going to subtract. On this denominator, I have a 2x plus 1 and I have an x minus 2. So I need to multiply the x with the x plus 7, which I'm going to x squared plus 7x. And then I can just go ahead and simplify this piece. If I have an x squared and I'm subtracting an x squared, this cancels out. I have an x minus 7x, which then would be negative 6x. And I have a negative 6 that is still over there too. And then I have my long denominator. I would advise you again, double check if you can factor anything and cancel anything out at the end. I'm going to factor out a -6, which leaves you with an x plus 1, which again, it does not create anything that we can cancel, but we checked. There you go.